Hey guys, Nightfox here. Welcome back to another of my Fall 2016 anime first impression videos. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about Drifters. So, this is done by the studio Hood's Drifters Studio, and this is literally the only anime they've ever done. So, I'm assuming that this studio was created specifically to do this anime. So, I'm not sure if that means that maybe there's gonna be more seasons of this, or they're gonna be doing other shows. But for now, this is the only show they've done so far. So let's get into a brief synopsis of the story so far. All right, so our story pretty much revolves around Toyohisa Shimazu. He's a Japanese warrior, and essentially what happened was he was fighting in this war between two warring camps, and then he suddenly got transported to this long hallway with a bunch of doors, and there's this guy in the center who was sitting at a desk. And he ended up, Toyohisa went through one of the doors and then was transported to this different world where he meets Nobunaga and Yoichi, who seem to be two other historical figures. And so the show's pretty much just goes from there. So let's get into my comments for the show so far. Alright, so my comments for this show, as you can tell by the synopsis, we haven't really gotten the main I think plot of the show. They're giving us it they're giving us like key points very slowly throughout the show so far. I'm on episode 3 at this point. So they're giving us very little hints here and there, but they haven't really revealed the big overarching plot for the show, which I'm okay with right now because it's still interesting, and I think they're setting everything up, and once they make that reveal, I think it's really going to be a fantastic show. So I'm okay with it not giving us the overarching plot right away, because I think it will pay off in the end. Another thing I like about this show is pretty much all the characters that we've met so far have been historical figures, and it's really interesting just like meeting all these characters and then like going looking them up and seeing who they were and what they actually did. And I think that's just an interesting that they're pulling in all these historical figures and kind of giving them a new twist in this darker world that they are currently in. One thing I will say, when I watched episode 1, I was really iffy on this show because the animation in episode 1 was really awkward and the art style was different, and it was just like this kind of almost jarring art and animation style. So I wasn't so sure how I'd like this show moving on forward, but I will have to say, episode 2 and episode 3 so far, they've changed the animation and it's become much more normal, and it makes it, for me personally, at least a lot easier to watch because it's not as jarring as episode 1 was. So if you watch this show, don't be scared off by the animation on episode 1 because it really normalizes in episode 2 and 3, and I'm assuming for the rest of the show. Another thing I really like about this show is I think they do the combat scenes very well. I think the choreography and how they animate them is really nice. They really animate the fight scene so that it has flow and it's not just a bunch of stills with some animation interdispersed. It's really a nice flowing full package for the fight scenes. I will say though, during these fight scenes, and there are quite a lot of them since these are all like warriors that have in their own time were like top tier warriors, so there are a lot of combat in this show. The fights are very gory. They show these people getting stabbed, they show blood coming out of their bodies if they get stabbed from behind, they show people getting decapitated, getting bludgeoned to death, getting shot multiple times. So if you're not a big fan of gore and that kind of like super violence, I would suggest maybe passing on this show because even though we're only 3 episodes in, there has been a lot of combat and it's very, very gory and very, I guess you could almost say kind of realistic in a sense because they don't really hide any of the brutalities of fighting and battle. Everything's really out there for the viewer to see. So again, if you're not a big fan of gore or high violence, I would just probably avoid this show because I don't think it would be that enjoyable for you. So another thing I was kind of talking about a little bit in the beginning with how they haven't really revealed their hand with the main plot. One thing that they have mentioned very briefly between the man in the hallway that we met briefly that we've kind of gotten glimpses of but haven't really gone too much into him. And then there was this other opposing character that we pretty much know nothing about, but they were talking and then there was the mention of a game. So I'm wondering if it is perhaps going to be a survival type game or something. And the reason I'm thinking that is because just in the last episode, episode 3, we got really introduced to the main two factions of this show. So you have people like Nobunaga, Yoichi, Toyohisa, and a couple others that are classified as the drifters. Now, again, we don't really know what it means to be a drifter or what really goes on with that. All we know is that that's what they're classified as. And then we have this other faction known as the Ends, which is led by the Black King, and then he also has historical figures that serve him and work under him. And so the Black King seems to be, we didn't really see much of him, but what we did see is he seems to be some sort of spellcaster or wizard that has powers, and he is the leader of the other force called the Ends. And so I'm assuming that in this show it's going to be a conflict between the drifters and the Ends fighting for some reason. I'm not sure what exactly will cause the drifters to want to fight the Black King and his army, because it is a very large army that he has. So those are my thoughts on the show so far. I'm pretty excited for this show. I think it's going to be a really good show of the season once it keeps giving us more and more information about the world we're in. So if you want to see how it compares to the other shows I'm watching this season, feel free to check out my weekly power ranking videos, which will be coming out every Sunday. If you agreed or disagreed with anything I said in this video, feel free to leave me a comment in the section down below. And I'll be releasing more of these first impression videos, so if you want to stay up to date and be notified when those are released, make sure you hit the subscribe button. And until then, I'll see you guys next time.